fun begins.
How's it going?
Hello.
Well, greetings, young Jedi. Hello there.
What's up, everyone? Hybrid Toy Reviews here, and welcome back to the next episode of Black Series of Yesteryear. We are going to be talking about the third wave in the blue line packaging today, and this wave was okay. I mean, there's some good stuff. Like, there are 4 really good action figures in this wave, but 2 of them are repacks. This was definitely the least new that we had gotten in the line so far in a wave. We have had waves with 3 new sculpts and then a repack, and this wave truly only has 1 totally new figure in it, but there was some really good stuff done. So it, middle of the road for Blue Line. It's the middle wave. There was 2 waves after this, 2 waves before it, so it all ultimately makes sense. So this wave, to start with, we'll just yap about the repacks. We're not going to get too hung up on them. They repacked Chewbacca, figure number 4, and then TIE Pilot, figure number 5. So these were from the first and second waves of the blue line, and they're good figures. The Chewbacca's only just recently been upgraded. The upgrade is definitely better, but this was good for the era and held up for a number of years, and they didn't change anything here. They just got Chewbacca back out there again. I think keeping Chewbacca somewhat readily available is not the worst thing a Star Wars figure line can do, so repacking Chewie, ultimately probably a pretty good move. And then the TIE Fighter pilot, maybe a little less needed of a repack, but, I actually really like this figure, and while I would like to see a redo of it, it has aged very well out of all of the troopers from this era. It's probably the one that's aged the best. It's also the one that they still on occasion reissue as recently as 2023. I'm not demanding a redo of it. I think a redo of it would be okay, and that's kind of just where I fall on the TIE Pilot. And so yeah, these 2 repacks, they're fine. They were really recent, but they, ultimately repacking them I don't think hurt anything ultimately. For our first new figure is Han Solo in the Stormtrooper disguise, and there is a lot of reuse going on. From the shoulders down, he is, in fact, just the Black Series Stormtrooper sculpt that we had gotten all the way back in Orange Line Wave 3. But they did a couple of things here. They made a new neck peg for him, so the ball joint on the hinge, that was new. They, tweaked it. They didn't necessarily change the torso sculpt, but they changed the disc portion of the joint. And then he got a little silicone thing that covered that joint to look like a neck seal, the little like ringed, like a rubber gasket thing. And then they put the Han Solo head sculpt from Wave 2 on it, and they made a removable helmet. They hollowed out a Stormtrooper helmet, and they put it on. All the helmets on these looked just a smidge wonky, but that really does lend itself to blending in with that charm that the OT Stormtrooper helmets had. All the original trilogy Stormtrooper helmets were, even though they were meant to be the same thing, standard issue, the costuming department, all of them had little tweaks, especially in A New Hope. And, it does, even though he's slightly different than the other Stormtroopers that you would have on your shelf at this point, it kind of just runs with it. It's just the aesthetic. That's okay. I didn't mind that so much. He ended up rocking an average Stormtrooper height with the helmet on, maybe just a touch taller, not bad. And yeah, ultimately he was a really good figure, for the time. It something that's definitely become dated. Recently, Mofex did Stormtrooper Han and Luke, and I've been debating picking those up, but I think next year, with the 50th anniversary of A New Hope and Star Wars as a whole, might be the time that Hasbro finally refreshes these guys. So I think I'm going to hold off on the Mofex a little bit more, but I very much would like to see a refresh. The new Stormtrooper body is just oh so good, and I think their new photoreal is oh so good. And yeah, this is a painted head sculpt, of course, but it wasn't a bad sculpt for the time. Credit where credit is due. For a painted sculpt, it's not bad. And then, concluding the wave, we'll conclude it with a bang here, they made Bosk, and I gotta say, I very much want a redone Bosk at this point. There is rumor of a Mafex one coming. They showed off a prototype. Until it's up for pre-order, it's not real though. But this guy in 2014, and then they archived him in like 2019 or 20, actually still holds up in appearance, but his articulation leaves a little bit to be desired. His elbows were a little short, and the head articulation was there, but it was limited. They focused a little bit more on him having an articulated jaw. That's a little bit much of a gimmick for me. Like, I almost would have rather just had like a closed mouth or an open mouth head sculpt that swapped rather than, just having like the gimmick on it. Me personally. But this figure was really, really cool. And he has some phenomenal paint apps for him. And as far as figures of this era go, he is one of the better looking. But yeah, he comes with his gun, and that's kind of it. He had a weird thing going on where his right hand is like sculpted, like relaxed open to the point that it really wasn't even like useful in weapon holding. I really know that Hasbro could run with Bosk in the modern era and like really drastically improve him. But for the age, I think this figure was really good. And he was definitely a standout. We had gotten some side characters, but this felt like a big deviation from what a lot of the line was. We were getting a lot of main characters at that point, and then some troopers, which, to be fair, when you're ultimately 7 waves into a line that gets 4 figures a wave, you do want to focus on some main characters at first. But this was definitely where the line started to deviate and get a little off the course that it had set so far, and it was just really cool getting Bosk. This wave ultimately ended up being a little bit hard to find. I personally found it at a Walmart in Tavares, Florida. I remember that. And I wasn't even like figure hunting that day. I was out doing something else. But you know how the toy collector does. The toy collector stops at Walmart for milk. You walk down the toy aisle anyway, just in case. And some of my best finds have been that way. And I just remember seeing Bosk on the shelf and then Han behind him and going like, what? So the milk, was acquired. It wasn't forgotten. It was almost forgotten. But the Stormtrooper Han and Bosk were put in the cart. And I was with my Aunt Amanda. I'll give her a shout out. But yeah, it was a really, really cool toy hunt that time, and it was really nice just finding some new Black Series, and I remember that time very fondly. But other than that, this was a little bit of a shorter yesteryear because we only really had half a wave to talk about, so I've drug it out about as far as I feel comfortable. I'm going to go get to work on some other videos now, so thank you for hanging out with me, listening to me talk. Were you collecting back at this point? Did you ever pick up any of these figures? What do you think about them as they've aged? Fire off in the comments below, let's have a conversation, and until next time, may the Force be with each and every single one of you, and I hope you all continue to have a great day. Bye!